Okay, so guys, today we are going to cover what is included in this package, what TEFL training, an overview of the program from Michael, and what are the features, what requirements are needed to apply, and what is the application process. And then at the very end, we're going to do a Q&A session. So you can write your questions in the chat box, or you can shout them out if you want. But feel free to ask a question during the presentation if it does pop into your head as well. I'm just going to share our booking links if you are interested in booking on to Cambodia. So if you just see there in the chat box, just going to include our links. And we also have an exclusive discount for those who are attending this webinar now. You will get €100 off our Cambodia internship, and just using the code VIP100, which I'm just going to put there in the chat as well, for a really great discount if you are booking on soon. So guys, I would like to start just by going through what's included in terms of the TEFL training. So this TEFL training is done online. You'll be one of a student of ours before you arrive in Cambodia. So for this package, we have our foundation course, which is a 120-hour TEFL course, so that you become not only qualified for this internship, but also if you do want to look for a job after the internship as well. So that's included our 120-hour accredited course. Also, we have included our 30-hour teaching young learners. So you can specialize in teaching young learners, which is perfect for this internship. And also we have included one of our mini courses, which is teaching English through yoga and mindfulness, which is one of my personal favorites. I think it's a great course to kind of give you an edge if you are teaching young learners, especially in Asian countries where, you know, meditation is really so important. And I also think it's a great way to manage maybe a group of hyper children as well, those techniques. So, and we also have our lesson planning guide as well packaged in with this internship. And so guys, I'm just going to hand it over to Mike now, who is going to give us an overview of the program. And he also has a presentation for us as well, just to give you a visual idea of Cambodia. And as I said, if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat box or at the very end. So Mike, I think this program is a really great springboard for a TEFL career. And I'm really excited to learn more about it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jessica. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for your time today. Before I get started telling you all about our Cambodia program in Cambodia, I just wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just typing in the chat box or telling me, verbally, what initially sparked your interest in Cambodia? What is it about Cambodia that compelled you to join this webinar this evening? If you wouldn't mind, just like, you can type it in the chat, or please feel free to tell us now. Can you do that quickly? I'm always curious to hear.
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
To even consider Cambodia.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So we have one there. I'm not sure if you can see it, Mike. So potential savings relative to other countries and the interest in the culture itself. Great one.
Very good.
Teaching in Asia without a degree. That's a very good one. And I've already done an internship in Thailand. Okay. And I'm interested in going to sea again sometime soon.
Southeast Asia, yes.
Oh, sorry. I misread that. I was like, the sea. Yes, Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
You probably know that better than me.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a great graduation from Thailand and then one of the neighboring countries, Cambodia. That's fantastic. Yeah, Oscar says travel in Southeast Asia as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic part of Asia, absolutely. The amazing culture Cambodia has to offer. I think that's a huge one. Absolutely, the culture. I want to explore and gain new teaching experiences and meet new people. Definitely, I can imagine the expat community is just fantastic.
Interpreter, that's okay. That's good.
Total accent, looking for different perspectives. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, please continue to share if we didn't get to everyone. It's awesome to hear some of the reasons why people are looking to teach and experience Cambodia, because I feel like you've come to the right place. I think Cambodia as a program and as a country it kind of checks all of those boxes for somebody who's looking for an amazing experience, a rich culture, financial kind of security, earning potential, things like that. So I think that it's one of the bright spots, I think, in the teach abroad destinations that I've experienced. And I place teachers and have programs in about 10 countries around the world and about 8 in Asia. So I'm very familiar with Asia, and I feel like Cambodia is this kind of like diamond that just hasn't been sanded down, and it's
in the rough.
shiny. It really is. Okay, so let me just get right into it. So we're just going to discuss about Cambodia, and I can share with you a little bit about the country and its history and culture, and what makes it such an amazing cultural destination. We'll talk about the program that we offer and the different options. We actually will go through our orientation week in Cambodia, which is a really exciting, interactive, immersive orientation. We'll talk about what the schools look like, and the different types of schools and the work week and the hours each week and so on and so forth. We'll talk about placements, salaries, locations, durations, those kinds of things. We will talk about the intake dates. So I'll be able to show you the intake dates for this year, eligibility, and also just give you a look at what accommodations are like, what they cost. And then, as was mentioned, we'll have an FAQ at the end, and we'll tell you a little bit more about some of the major questions that come up. And after that, we'll have a general question session. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If at any time you have a question, please feel free to type it in the chat box or raise your hand or just speak out. I like this to be as interactive as possible. Yes. Okay. Absolutely. So Cambodia has obviously a very rich culture and traditions. Back, 1,000 years ago, it boasted the largest empire in the history of Southeast Asia, which is Angkor Wat, which you'll definitely be able to check off your bucket list when you're in Cambodia. It's one of the man-made wonders of the world. And at one point, Cambodia, there's a little country in Southeast Asia with like 9 million people at that time, controlled all of Southeast Asia. So it was a real empire. And you can see Cambodian architecture, the Khmer language, and other kinds of artifacts of their domination of Southeast Asia. So even in Thailand, where I live part of the time, you see Cambodian architecture in a lot of the old temples, because they used to control all of Thailand. So it's got this rich culture and traditions, and it's a Buddhist country. The people are very peaceful. Before it actually was Hindu, and then during the Angkor Wat days, and then it became Buddhist later on. So there's this kind of like, as you mentioned, about mindfulness, meditation, peaceful people, and kind of like Thailand, kind of like Myanmar, which are all Buddhist countries. So that's something that you experience, just a peaceful, gentle people that you meet. I mean, it's also a country on the rise. I mean, Cambodia is has the fastest growing economy in Asia pretty much right now, besides maybe China. Its GDP is skyrocketing. And somebody asked me the other day, like, why is Cambodia growing so fast? Well, that's where all the investment is going, because it's a newly emerging country, so it's starting from a really low place, and it's starting to emerge, and tons of investment is coming in. And why does that matter to you? Because there's a growing middle class in Cambodia, and middle class people want to send their kids to schools where they can learn English with a native speaker. And there's a lot more demand for English language capability in the economy, because there's all this investment in tourism and stuff coming in. So what we've seen is just an explosion of private schools and language schools, where this has kind of created a strong demand for English teachers. So that's why Cambodia is like, the economy economic growth is leading to more demand for English teachers. And when you get there, when you're on the ground in Cambodia, you just feel like it's a country going places. Like you can sense it. It's like a pulse, that you can kind of sense this pulsating beat of the country. And I haven't seen that in many places, but when I see it, I know it. I've been in Southeast Asia for 20 years. So you can feel that it's a country that is really on the rise. But yet it's still got this ancient culture, and it's still got this kind of unspoiled natural environment that hasn't been tainted by international tourism. And it still has that kind of local feel to it. But there is a large growing expat community. So when you're in Cambodia, whereas 20 years ago, you might have been like really like no other Westerners in your area, barely ever seeing a foreigner. Nowadays, there is a growing, small but really growing and really close-knit expat community, especially in Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, which are probably the two most popular destinations for tourists and digital nomads. So you do see this large expat community. So you're not totally out of that. You have access to the expat lifestyle, some of the creature comforts if you want them. But if you don't have to engage in that, and you can have a very kind of immersive cultural experience. It's very safe compared to other countries in Southeast Asia. It's kind of on par with Thailand, which is a very safe country. And it's still off the beaten path. So it's still a country where you can say, like, in a generation, it's going to be kind of a well-worn path. But right now, you're kind of blazing a trail if you're coming to teach in Cambodia. In terms of, so in terms of our program in Cambodia is called the Placement Program Plus. So you guys are already going to be, or are already TEFL certified. So you'll be coming into Phnom Penh, which is the capital, and there you will have a 1-week culture and language orientation, which I'll detail in depth in another slide. And then right after that, you'll start your teaching placement. So you'll be placed either before you arrive or during the week that you're with us in Phnom Penh, and then immediately following the orientation week, you'll start your teaching placement. Now, during that week, in addition to the orientation, you will also have a teaching practice, like a practicum in a Cambodian school. So you get a chance to go in, and our instructor will kind of evaluate you and give you feedback, just so you have a little bit of experience in teaching and seeing the inside of a classroom before you actually head out into the field. So the orientation week is a full week. So it's Sunday to Saturday. And these are some of the topics that we cover. So we're going to give you a crash course in Khmer language, Cambodian language. We're going to go over Cambodia history, culture, geography, politics. So you're going to have a really good grounding in the country. We're going to talk about what it's like to work in a school in Cambodia, like the work culture, the organizational culture, and what the expectations are from the school and what you can expect. We're going to talk about the process of visas and work permits, which is actually quite simple compared to other countries. You'll be glad to know. But we're going to still kind of help you understand that with a full presentation during the orientation week. We're going to talk about culture shock. We have a Cambodian cooking class. We're going to visit some of the important museums and important locations that tell us a lot more about Cambodia's history. If you don't know, Cambodia had it rough in the 20th century. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find another country that suffered as much as the people of Cambodia did during the 20th century. But yet that's kind of starting to go into the rear view mirror further and further as the country kind of starts to take its place on the world stage. But there's still it's important to learn about the history, because it's only a couple of generations ago that they went through a really tough time. So we're going to kind of visit some of those places so we can learn more about the history and thus more about the people. We're going to have a market trip to visit a local market, learn about the different fruits and vegetables. We also, because Buddhism is such a big part of everyday Cambodian life, we're going to visit a Buddhist temple and have a Dharma talk with a Buddhist monk, and welcome dinner to bond as a group, and even more stuff that I couldn't kind of list on this slide. So that's what the orientation week looks like that you'll be doing right before you go and start your teaching position. So let's talk a little bit about the schools in Cambodia. So there's two types of schools that our teachers teach at. The first are language schools. That's where you're teaching mostly young learners and teenagers. And most of the time you're teaching Saturday and Sunday, and then the evenings, afternoons and evenings. So you'll still get 2 days off during the week, but your Saturdays and Sundays are the busiest time for language schools because kids go to language school when they're not studying in their normal school. So this is the language school positions, and they make up about 40% of our teaching positions in Cambodia. The other type of schools are private schools. These are K through 12 private schools where students study all the subjects, including English. So in Cambodia, the quality of the public school system is really, really low, like much lower than Thailand, much lower than Vietnam. So for a working class or middle class Cambodian family, they would rather send their kids to private schools because the quality of education is much higher. So these private schools have sprung up all over to service these growing middle class communities. So about 60% of our teachers end up teaching in private schools, and those are Monday to Friday, normal hours like 7:30 to 3:30, 4 p.m. And you have your weekends off, and you're teaching, again, young learners up through teenagers. Class sizes are pretty similar for both private schools and language schools at about 15 to 25 students in a classroom.
Would it usually be capped at that, or could you anticipate maybe more?
Usually not more than 25. Yeah, because it's a private school. Yeah, because it's a private school and the parents are paying, there's a little bit more pressure to keep the class sizes.
That's great though. Yeah, definitely for the teacher. Yeah.
So in terms of the salaries for non-degree holders, and I know a couple people here had questions about that, the absolute minimum salary is $700 a month. And the normal salary, I would say, would be between $800 and $1,000. And it's not uncommon to have non-degree holders making $1,000 a month to start. The cool thing is actually in Cambodia, you're paid in dollars. You're paid in US dollars. Okay. So you can spend them, you can put your dollars in the bank. It is kind of like a dual currency economy, especially in Phnom Penh, where most of you will be teaching. So you can pay with dollars or pay with real, but so you are actually paid in dollars. And like I said, 700 is the minimum. We have non-degree holders making more than that, significantly more. And that's just your first contract. One of the cool things about Cambodia, and I love to tell people about this, is if you're going to teach like for several years in a country, Cambodia, more than any other country that I place teachers, and I mentioned I've placed teachers in 10 different countries, there's a lot of upward income potential from one contract to the next. I've never seen such upward income potential in a country. So I've had teachers come in and making 800, 900. Their next contract a year later, they're making about 12, 1300. I have non-degree holders making as much as $1,800 a month on their second or third contract. So when you're coming in, your first contract is going to be about that 700 to 1,000. But once you're on the ground and you've got experience and they know you want to be there, they know you like Cambodia, they're not worried you're going to not like it there and leave, like a lot of schools get a little bit concerned about that on your first contract, then they really value that stability and the confidence they have in someone who's been there for a while. So we've seen the earning potential from first to second and then the third contract much higher than in any other country. So that's a cool thing to point out. Teaching hours are about degree holders are making at least $1,000 and upward of $1,800 a month. And we'll talk about the cost of living there too, because it's really impressive to look at the salary and then such a low cost of living. Teaching hours are about 22 to 30 hours a week, so not too excessive. The contracts are about 12 months. So coming in, it would be good to be able to make a 12-month commitment. On a case-by-case basis, it could be a little less than 12 months, but really most schools are looking for 12 months, and that's when you're going to get the best contract and you're going to have more options. Placements are mainly in the big cities. I'll show you a map in the following slides. The big cities are Phnom Penh is the biggest city, it's the capital. And then Siem Reap is much smaller, but it is known as a tourist area because Angkor Wat is in the vicinity. So there's a lot of demand for English. And so there's more schools hiring native speakers in that area. And in terms of other parts of Cambodia, we're placing teachers in small cities or large towns across the country. Any questions so far? You feel free to type them if it's stuff I've covered so far.
Any questions? Not yet, just
Okay.
about. But yeah, guys, feel free to pop your questions in there throughout the presentation as well.
So this is just a view of what the locations in Cambodia where we place teachers. So Phnom Penh's the #1 location, and then Siem Reap is the #2 location. And then there's other major towns and cities like Phoi Phet and Battambang and others in the western part of Cambodia. This is the border with Thailand here. And as I mentioned, about 60% in private and 40% in public schools. One of the big things is the savings potential. Because the cost of living is so low, it's lower than Thailand, lower than Vietnam, super cheap. People are regularly saving 50% of their salary. You literally don't have that much to spend on. Your rent is super cheap, cheapest that I've seen of rent in any country in Asia that I've placed teachers, including Thailand, much cheaper than Thailand. And food costs are much cheaper. So your teachers are saving 50% and they're not having to watch their budget. They're just ending up with that kind of savings. And for degree holders who are earning, $1,400, $1,800 or $1,000 up, they can save even higher than 50% of their salary because the living costs in Cambodia are the lowest of any country that has a kind of a mature teach abroad market.
It's amazing. Amazing, because if you do want to stay on or move on somewhere else, you have a bit of money behind you as well, which is fantastic. We just have 2 questions there, Mike. Oh yeah. I see
that. And actually one of the things I wanted to mention, because it's not on this presentation, is you have 18 days paid vacation at your teaching job. Okay. That, let me just tell you, that might not seem like a lot compared to what we get in the West, but it's by far the most paid vacation that I've seen in any country in Asia. So, and that doesn't include public holidays. If you lump public holidays in, it's about 40 days of paid vacation during the year. So when somebody talked about traveling, in Thailand, you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 days a year of paid vacation. Vietnam's not that great on that. Other countries are much lower, much lower or no paid vacation. So if you're like traveling, you're going to get a chance to do a lot of traveling when you're teaching in Cambodia, just because they have so much time off. I see a couple of questions here. Let me just.
I don't know if you can see them there.
Yeah, you won't. You're never placed alone. So in situations where you're the only teacher in the school, which can happen occasionally, you're in a large city or a large or small city or large town where there's tons of expat teachers at schools all over the area. So even if you are the expat teacher at the school, at that branch, there's lots of other schools around you, and there's an expat community in your town. So
yeah, I think it's great just to kind of branch out as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you would never be like the only expat in your town or city. There'll always be lots of other expat teachers.
Absolutely. I think there's just a quick question there. So what are the requirements for recruitment if you don't have a TEFL certification yet? Yeah, absolutely. So included in our internship with the teaching placement Mike's discussing, we also provide you with TEFL training as well. So I sent on the booking link there. So you'll get your 120 hours of training, which is the minimum to teach in Cambodia. So that's all included, don't worry. And another one there, what about if you're still taking your TEFL course? Can we have the offer? Yeah, absolutely. So if you're already TEFL qualified, that's not a problem. If you want to get in touch with one of our team, we can discuss what package is available to you. But yes, absolutely, we can take on and recruit those who are already TEFL qualified as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and also one of the great things about this program is you don't have to sign up like 6 months before. You can sign up as little as a month before, because the paperwork required to come to Cambodia is much lower than any other country, frankly. I mean, there's not another country that is as easy paperwork wise, visa wise, to come through than Cambodia. So, you know, you wouldn't believe the hassle that teachers have to go through to go to places like Korea and Japan and Vietnam. I mean, it's a hassle and it's expensive. All the paperwork they have to prepare, like getting things legalized and apostilled and stuff like that. Cambodia doesn't have any of those requirements. So it's a really easy transition and very cheap transition to come over with not a lot of hassle, and even a month in advance. So you could literally sign up for this program and a month later, you're in Cambodia starting your experience. That's how seamless and quick it can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are just a quick view of our intake dates for the year. You will have access to this from TFYE, but just to kind of show you, we have multiple dates throughout the year. We bring in a group of teachers together. They do the orientation week together as a group. So you'll meet a lot of friends from all over the West, all over native and non-native English-speaking countries who will be coming on the program at the same time as you, experiencing the orientation and then heading out into the field in different locations in Cambodia.
Great.
In terms of accommodation, I mentioned before, like cost of living is really cheap. So accommodations range from about $75 to about $200 a month. So it's very cheap. And you're not talking about like something really, really bad. Like they're nice accommodation, fully furnished, air conditioner, safe, clean, like, you know, everything you need for 75 to 200, 200 being the high end, which in Thailand, 200 is the low end of what you're going to pay for accommodation. But in Cambodia, it's the high end, yet the salaries are even higher in Cambodia. So I think that it's got a lot to offer in that quality of life and the savings potential, because this is your biggest cost and it's just a small fraction of your salary. So very good value on accommodation. And in terms of this last slide about the FAQ, when you're coming over, we recommend you bring about $1,000 as a startup budget. Okay, so that will cover your visa and work permit costs, which you pay for yourself, but many schools will reimburse you if you once you finish your contract. You'll have to put down your first and last month's rent, and then food costs and everything until you get your first salary. So I'd say about $1,000 US would be a good startup budget with plenty of wiggle room for you, so that you're not you have a good safety net. Yes, friends can be placed together as long as you're flexible about age group and location. So you'd probably be in like Phnom Penh or something, you know, the capital, which is like where 80% of our teachers are anyway. But yes, we can place teachers together as long as you're really flexible on location and age group.
So with even couples, if they want to be in the same accommodation, that's usually feasible?
Yeah, it may not be that you'll be in the same school. You might, like, it depends on the time of year, depends on what positions are available at the time, but at least you'd be able to commute, live in the same place and commute each day to your school in the city, you know, so just a normal commute, live in an apartment. Another cool thing about Cambodia is that there's no visa trip. So you actually arrive, you don't even need a visa before you come over. You just arrive, get your visa on arrival. And then once you're in country, we will switch your visa from a tourist visa to the business visa and the work permit all in country. So there's no visa trips, no applying for the visa beforehand. You just get on a plane and fly over. So super easy and smooth. And I love it that it takes a lot of the headaches and stress out of, oh, I apply for the visa. I got to make sure I get it back in time, you know, like waiting on needles, like calling the embassy every day. Where's my visa? Where's my visa? So at Cambodia, you just get on the plane and fly over and you're there and ready to start your adventure. That's all from my side. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that people have.
Yeah, if people want to put in the chat box there again, or feel free to shout it out if you want to speak with Mike as well. And if you have any questions at all, I think that was really, really great presentation. We nearly covered everything, I think. And it really just shows the huge benefits even over other Asian countries, which is so interesting, you know, a lot more stress-free, I think, really, as you said, about the visa process and the cost of living and having those savings as well. It's fantastic.
The holiday days are about 22 days, I think, a year in public holidays. And then the private holidays are 18 days. So it's about 40, I think 36 to 40 days of the year are the days that you actually get paid, but you're not working.
Wow.
Upper age limit, yeah, I mean, it just depends on a case-by-case basis. You know, there isn't like in Thailand, there's a rule, like 60 years old, they don't give you the work permit. It's a government regulation. In Cambodia, they don't have that same requirement. So it's really just on a case-by-case basis. So you go ahead and apply, and then we will take a look at that. And so.
No problem.
Good question, Edmund. Yeah, so schools vary. Some schools are going to give a lot of support and guidance on lesson planning and like a full curriculum, and other schools aren't as sophisticated in that area, and you kind of have to make your own lesson plans. Some schools will have like assistant teachers or co-teachers, other schools won't. So we will kind of cover that on the ground and make sure that you're prepared. And I'm sure the TEFL course will also give you that confidence that you can teach in any kind of environment. But there is a wide variety of like support that schools give depending on how many resources they have. So Simone, good question. There may be some potential for that, like in the language school positions, there may be some small potential for business English, but like most of the English is aimed at young kids. And Cambodia has a very young population. I mean, I'm like the oldest person in the country when I go there. I mean, it's a very young population. So there's lots of kids, lots and lots and lots of children. And so so most of your classes, even at the language school, there'll be maybe one or two classes that will focus on older students, maybe college age or a little bit older, but most of the kids are young learners.
Great. No, thank you, Mike. Yes, is there any last questions there you want to pop into chat box, guys? I just put in the booking links there as well, where you can book on. That would be your next step. And once you're booked on with us, you will receive an application form. You need to fill out this application form, and it will be pre-screened, and it will be forwarded to our partners who will review it and then arrange an interview with you, you know, to tell you more about the program as well and what you're hoping to gain from it. And from there, then our partners will go through the whole process, the onboarding process. And as Mike said, the visa won't be as much of a stress, which is great. But yeah, obviously getting ready then to arrive in country with our partners and then have your orientation from there. Just another question there. Is there fixed school terms?
Yes, there are. It's usually the school terms are around January, February, and then July, August timeframe. But we have placements all year round because there's always attrition. You know, people are going and they need new teachers to come in. So we can place teachers all year round. But yes, there are normal term dates, but you would just be on a contract of a year based on when you started, you know, so that would be the way it would normally work.
Perfect. So I'm just putting in our details there as well, guys. If you want to get in touch with us to book a call to discuss this program a bit more, to see if you are eligible for this. I have also included our eligibility form. So if you are not a native English speaker, we just ask you a few questions before you book on to see if you would be suitable for this position. I know, Mike, you did say before there is possibilities for non-native English speakers, but I guess there would need to be that level of English as well.
Right, yes. So non-native English speakers are welcome to apply, and it is important that they have at least C1 level English or equivalent. And but absolutely, there's plenty of potential for non-native speakers to teach in Cambodia. So
Fantastic.
yeah, definitely welcome to apply.
Absolutely. All right, I think that's it for the moment. And just a reminder there, guys, as well about our discount code. I'll just pop it in the chat again. So it's VIP 100 for 100 euro off our Cambodia program. And as I said, if you have any questions, please get in touch, pop us an email, or we can have a call. I'd just like to thank Michael for joining us today and telling us all about the program. It was absolutely fantastic and very informative.
Good.
And thank you everyone for attending and asking some really great questions. And yeah, we hope to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone. Take care.
Bye now. Bye-bye.